I was 27 and not really looking for anything serious. I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship a few months prior and was mostly focused on work. Logistics management might not sound glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me weekends off, which felt like a luxury back then. That weekend, a couple of friends dragged me to this neighborhood bar. It wasn't anything fancy, dim lighting, decent wings, old-school soul music playing from a beat-up jukebox, but it had character. I was leaning on the bar waiting for a round when I noticed her. Anna. She was across the room laughing with a friend, this carefree, loud kind of laugh that carried over the music. I don't know if it was the laugh or the way she held herself, shoulders relaxed, like she belonged anywhere she went, but something about her hit me. I ended up making some dumb joke to break the ice, and to my surprise, she laughed again. Real, not polite. She told me she worked in real estate, had been in the game for a few years already, and that she liked old diners, running in the early morning, and 80s music. We started talking and didn't stop for 3 hours. She had this way of looking at you when you spoke, like she wasn't waiting to talk, just listening. Fully there. It was magnetic. We went out the next weekend. And the weekend after that. A few months later, we were spending most nights at each other's places, cooking dinner together, watching movies, learning all the weird, quiet details that make someone feel like home. A year later, we were married. Fast forward to now, we've built a life. We live in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood just outside the city. We have a big kitchen we never use enough, a dog named Marley who thinks he owns the place, and routines that feel comforting in a way I never expected. Friday night takeout, Sunday morning grocery runs, shared glances across the room when our favorite song comes on. She's still the loudest laugh in the room, still the one who turns heads when she walks into a place. And I still feel lucky every time I catch her looking at me the way she did that first night. If someone had asked me 5 years ago what kind of husband I thought I'd be, I probably would have shrugged and said the practical kind. I didn't grow up in a particularly affectionate household, and I wasn't the guy who dreamed of roses and candlelit dinners. But something about being with Anna changed that. She pulled things out of me I didn't know were there. We settled into married life with surprising ease. Our home, 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, slightly overgrown garden, became a haven. On weekends, we'd sit on the back porch with coffee, watching Marley chase birds he was never going to catch. We filled the house with mismatched furniture, potted plants she always managed to bring back to life, and dozens of framed photos from road trips and lazy afternoons. Anna had a knack for making ordinary days feel like something more. She'd put on music while making breakfast, dance barefoot in the kitchen, hum when she was thinking. I'd find little sticky notes on my laptop some mornings. Don't forget to smile. Or, you looked cute in your sleep. She had this way of being everywhere and in everything. The smell of her shampoo on the pillows, her humming from the shower, the way her mug always ended up in the exact same spot on the counter. Our schedules didn't always align perfectly. She had client meetings at odd hours, and I was often knee-deep in reports or on calls with warehouse supervisors. But we made it work. We had dinner together almost every night, even if it was just takeout in front of the TV. Sometimes we didn't talk much. Sometimes we stayed up late in bed, whispering about everything and nothing. We traveled when we could, nothing extravagant, just little getaways to the coast, a weekend in the mountains, a cabin by a lake. We always said we'd do a big Europe trip one day. When we're not so busy, she'd say, and I'd nod, picturing us older but still hand in hand, wandering cobblestone streets somewhere we couldn't pronounce. It felt like we were still growing, both as individuals and as a couple. There were inside jokes, routines, little rituals, our Saturday morning coffee run, folding laundry while watching crime dramas, arguing over which pizza toppings were non-negotiable. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, our little world, and I was proud of it. There's something about settling into a rhythm with someone that you can't really explain until you're living it. The way one person reaches for the kettle before the others finish their sentence. The way you brush past each other in the hallway without saying a word, but it still feels like a conversation. Anna and I had that kind of rhythm. She'd always wake up before me, every single morning. I'd hear her padding around the house, the sound of the fridge opening, the faint whistle of the kettle. I'd stay in bed for a few extra minutes, not because I was tired, but because I liked listening to her move through the morning. She always seemed so full of life in those early hours. By the time I made it to the kitchen, she'd be halfway through her first cup of tea, usually scanning emails on her phone, already mentally lining up her day. Real estate kept her on her toes. Showings, negotiations, the occasional panicked seller. But she thrived in it. She was sharp, composed. I used to love watching her slip on those heels and head out the door like she owned the world. We kept a whiteboard in the kitchen for shared brain things, groceries, appointments, random notes like Marley ate a sock or buy more olive oil. It sounds small, but it was part of our language, our little way of staying in sync. Evenings were slower. After work, I'd crack a beer and unwind on the couch while she changed out of her work clothes and into one of those oversized sweaters she lived in at home. We'd trade stories from the day, me griping about vendor delays, her laughing about clients who wanted a house with character, but meant a mansion with no creaks. We never had kids, just wasn't something we got around to, but we talked about it sometimes. More in a maybe someday way than a firm plan. Marley was enough of a handful for the moment, and Anna always said she wanted to see more of the world before settling down further. On weekends, we'd hit the farmer's market, argue over how many throw pillows were too many, or binge-watch shows we'd already seen twice. Life wasn't thrilling or glamorous, but it was steady. It was familiar. It was good. I remember thinking one night, as she curled up beside me on the couch, that this must be what contentment feels like, not excitement or fireworks or any of the dramatic stuff they put in movies, but a kind of quiet. Peaceful knowing that you were exactly where you were supposed to be. That was life with Anna. At least, that's how it seemed. I couldn't tell you the exact day things started feeling off. It wasn't dramatic. There wasn't some lightning bolt moment. It was just this slow, creeping feeling, like a draft in the house you can't locate. It started with small stuff. Anna's phone used to live on the kitchen counter. She never guarded it, never had a reason to. Lately, though, she'd keep it on her. Always face down. Notifications stopped lighting up. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone deserves privacy, and maybe she just didn't want work stuff buzzing all the time. Then there was the laughing. She started getting these text messages late in the evening, and when they came in, she'd grin, softly at first, like a private joke, and then say something like, "Oh, it's just Melissa," or "work stuff." I didn't question it. Not at first. But I'd glance over and notice her screen always cleared quickly. Once or twice, I caught her locking her phone the second I walked into the room. I told myself I was overthinking it. But the thing is, when you've lived with someone for years, you learn their rhythms. The pace of their footsteps, the tone in their voice, the weight of their sighs. And something about Anna's rhythm had changed. She got dressed up more. Not in an obvious way, no red dresses or perfume clouds, but just more effort. Her hair was styled even on casual days. Lipstick on a Monday. I complimented her once, and she smiled, touched my cheek, and said, "Just felt like looking nice for myself." I believed her. I wanted to. Then there were the late nights. She had a few listings across town, so I didn't question when she said she was working late or grabbing drinks with a colleague. But it started happening more often. 2, sometimes 3 nights a week. She'd come home buzzing with energy, like she'd just had the best night. I'd ask about it, and she'd offer vague stories, names I didn't recognize, clients I'd never heard of. The first real crack, though, came one Friday night. She said she was meeting a friend from college, just catching up, she said. I asked who. She paused for a second, like she had to think about it, then said, "Just an old friend. You wouldn't know him." Him. She caught it too. Her eyes flickered, and then she added quickly, "I mean, her. Melissa. I'm tired. I don't know why I said him. I wanted to let it go. I really did. But that night, when she came home, she smelled different. Not bad. Not foreign. Just not the perfume I knew. Something more musky, deeper. Something unfamiliar. I didn't sleep well that night. And for the first time in our marriage, I found myself wondering if my wife was hiding something. I've never been the jealous type. Not really. I always believed that trust is something you build, brick by brick, day by day. And Anna and I, we had that. Or at least, I thought we did. But lately, I've been carrying around this weight in my chest. Like I'm holding my breath and I don't know why. She's been distant. Not cold exactly, just somewhere else. There are more silences between us now, not the comfortable kind we used to share, but ones that feel like gaps. Like we've missed a turn and are both pretending we didn't. She still smiles, still kisses me goodbye in the morning, still asks about my day. But something's off in her eyes. They don't linger like they used to. Conversations feel rehearsed. Safe. Like she's choosing her words more carefully than she ever did before. One night last week, We were watching a movie together. Something she picked, romantic, light. About halfway through, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled faintly, and turned the screen over without replying. "You're not going to check that?" I asked. She shrugged. "It's just Melissa. She sends me memes constantly." It didn't sit right with me, but I nodded. I told myself it was nothing. Later that night, I got up to grab water and found her standing alone in the kitchen, staring at her phone. She didn't hear me at first. When she noticed me, she jumped slightly and quickly turned off the screen. I asked if everything was okay. She smiled. "Just tired. Long day." But her hand was trembling a little. I noticed that. And I also noticed that she slept with her phone tucked under her pillow that night. It's not one thing. It's all the little things. She started wearing a necklace I've never seen before. When I asked about it, she said she picked it up while shopping with a friend. No big deal. But Anna never buys herself jewelry. Not without sending me pictures first, asking, "Too much?" Or, "Think this would go with that blue dress?" And then there was the night she got home from drinks with the girls, and I spotted a faint smudge of something on her shoulder. Lipstick, maybe? It was gone in a blink, but I saw it. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to make something out of nothing. But the doubt is starting to gnaw at me. I keep telling myself I'm being ridiculous, that stress, or routine, or just life is changing how we connect, that it's not unusual to go through quiet spells in a long relationship. But then I'll catch her looking out the window with this faraway look, like she's somewhere else, with someone else. I don't know. Maybe it's just a feeling. But feelings have a way of settling in the gut and refusing to leave. And mine won't shut up. I've started keeping more things to myself. It's subtle, but I can feel it. There are moments when something strange or heavy settles on my tongue. Questions I want to ask, thoughts that churn all day, and I just let them pass. Not because I'm afraid of the answer, not exactly. More because I don't think I'd believe the answer if she gave it. Like last Thursday. She came home late again. Said she had dinner with a new client. Someone picky, indecisive, wanted to walk through 3 different condos after hours. She was flustered when she walked in, breathless almost. Hair up in a way she doesn't usually wear it. Her blouse buttoned just a little off. I didn't say a word. Just nodded. Asked if she was hungry. She wasn't. Went straight to the shower. That's been happening more often lately too. Those long, quiet showers, where the water runs and runs, and I find myself staring at the clock. She used to play music while she got ready. Now it's silence. Just the water, and me in the next room, lying there and wondering what she's washing away. There was also the business trip she brought up last weekend. A 3-day conference 2 hours away. She said her agency wanted her there, that it would be a chance to network and breathe a little. That part stuck with me. Breathe a little. Like home had become something she needed space from. I smiled. Said it sounded like a good opportunity. Told her I'd miss her. But I didn't say what I really felt. That lately, I'm not sure what part of her is still here when she's home. I find myself watching her differently now. Not with suspicion, at least not overtly, but with a kind of quiet observation. I catch these flickers of emotion cross her face that weren't there before. Guilt? Sadness? I can't tell. Sometimes she seems overly affectionate out of nowhere, grabbing my hand when we're on the couch, leaning into me for no reason. Other times she's distant, like she's underwater and I'm just a ripple at the surface. It's the inconsistency that messes with me. One night she asked, "Do you still feel like we're good? Like us?" I said yes. She nodded, smiled, and turned back to the TV. But there was something in the way she asked it. Too casual, like she already knew the answer but needed to hear it from me. Sometimes I think I'm imagining it all. That maybe this is what happens after years together. The comfort slowly turns into distance. The spark softens into routine. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe I'm being paranoid. But then she'll glance at her phone and smile in a way that she doesn't smile at me anymore. And I'll lie awake beside her, pretending not to feel the space between us grow just a little bit wider. I used to believe that when something's wrong in a relationship, you'd feel it like a blow, sudden, unmistakable, like glass shattering. But that's not how this has been. This has felt more like a picture frame slowly bending out of shape, corners warping, the photo inside slipping crooked. Not broken, just no longer right. Anna's trip came and went. 3 days out of town. She packed light but precise, the way she always does. I stood in the doorway while she zipped her bag, made small talk about traffic and hotel breakfast options. She kissed me goodbye like normal. But when she turned to walk out, there was a flicker in her expression, something between excitement and relief, that stuck with me far longer than it should have. The house was quiet without her. Marley wandered from room to room like he was looking for someone. I tried to distract myself, worked late, watched old movies, even attempted to rearrange the garage. But the silence followed me everywhere. And it wasn't just that she was gone. It was that she hadn't felt fully here for a long time, and the absence just made that truth louder. She called once each night. Short check-ins. The first time she sounded distracted. Said the conference was hectic, lots of networking. The second night, she was oddly cheerful, laughing more than usual. I asked what was so funny, and she said, "Oh, just something one of the reps said, you wouldn't get it." I forced a laugh and told her I missed her. She went quiet for half a second before replying, "Me too." But it didn't land right. Like it was something she remembered she was supposed to say. When she came back, there was a glow to her. Like she'd come back from somewhere that had given her more than just sales tips and brochures. I noticed it the second she walked through the door. The way her eyes darted toward her phone before she even said hello. The slightly messy curl to her hair that looked less like a rushed travel day and more like she didn't have time to fix it. I didn't ask questions. I helped carry her bag inside, smiled like everything was fine, and told her Marley missed her. That night, lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not because I had proof of anything. I didn't. No strange receipts, no lipstick on collars, no suspicious apps. Just moments. Tiny fractures in a rhythm that used to be seamless. I kept asking myself, what do you do when something feels wrong but there's nothing you can point to? When the woman you love is still there beside you, still saying all the right words, but they sound like lines rehearsed for someone else. A few days later, I came home early from work. She wasn't expecting me. I walked in quietly, not trying to sneak up on her, just didn't make much noise. She was in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, and her voice was soft, almost breathless. I only caught a few words before she turned and saw me. "No, I had a great time too." She froze. Her face shifted instantly, surprise, then something else. Panic, maybe. She covered it well, smiled, waved her phone, said, "Oh hey, you're back early. Just Melissa. We were talking about this weekend's brunch." I smiled, nodded, kissed her on the cheek. But something in her voice during that call didn't sound like brunch talk. Something in the way she turned her back when she hung up, like she needed a second to compose herself, made the air in the room feel heavier than it had moments before. I haven't said anything. Not yet. I'm not even sure what I'd say. But every time she picks up her phone now, every time she smiles at a message, every time she says a name I barely recognize, I feel that quiet weight settle back onto my chest. Something's happening. I just don't know what. Some discoveries don't come crashing through your life. They arrive quietly, unannounced, just sitting there, like they've always been waiting. It was a Saturday morning, late spring. One of those deceptively calm days where everything feels perfectly in place. The kind of day that makes you believe, just for a second, that all the doubt in your head was just imagination. Anna had already left, said she was meeting a client across town, some open house she'd been coordinating for weeks. I believed her. Or maybe I just didn't feel like challenging it anymore. I was cleaning the house, something to keep my hands busy, my brain occupied. She'd left her gym bag on the chair in the hallway, the same one she always brought with her. I almost didn't touch it. I wasn't looking for anything. I swear that on my life. But the bag was unzipped, and the corner of something metallic caught my eye. A phone. Not hers. Not the one I knew, the rose gold iPhone she carried everywhere. This one was black, older, cheap. My heart started pounding before I even touched it. I stared at it for what felt like a full minute, that sick feeling crawling up from my gut. I knew right then, deep down, I knew. I picked it up. No passcode. The messages were all right there. At the top of the thread was a name I didn't recognize. Just a first name, Eric, no last name, no emojis. But the messages, they told the whole story. "You looked so damn good last night. I can't stop thinking about your hands on me." He has no clue. Does he? Let's go back to the hotel again. Same room. I felt my breath leave me. Just gone. Like the air had been sucked out of the room. I scrolled. Some of the older messages had been deleted, but enough remained to draw a picture that didn't need imagination. There were photos, nothing explicit, but intimate. A shot of her laughing in what looked like a hotel room mirror. One of them clinking glasses, his hand around her waist. Another of her curled up in bed, clearly not alone. And then the one that finally shattered everything. Last night was even better than the first time. I put the phone down. I didn't yell. I didn't throw it. I just stood there, holding something that felt radioactive in my hands. This wasn't a maybe. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a gut feeling. This was truth. Ugly, undeniable truth. And the worst part? I knew who Eric was. I'd seen that name once before on a photo she showed me years ago from her college days. Her ex. The one she had nothing left to say to. The one she said she blocked on every platform. Ancient history, she called it. I put the phone back in the bag exactly where I found it. Sat at the kitchen table and stared at nothing for a long time. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, numb, watching the sunlight shift across the counter. Then I wrote a note. One line. I know everything. I placed it next to the bag. Then I grabbed the spare set of car keys, the one to the SUV I bought her last year, the one I was still paying for. I grabbed my laptop, my wallet, the emergency cash I kept in the drawer, and I walked out the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't say goodbye. She could come home to silence. I left that phone. I left that note. And I left the life I thought we were still living. I didn't plan what I did next. I didn't need to. Something inside me had already decided. I drove. No destination. No music. Just silence and the pulse in my ears. I watched the highway blur past me, one exit after another, the world moving while my chest burned. I pulled into a motel 3 towns over. Paid cash. Gave a fake name. The clerk didn't care. I could have told him I was Elvis and he'd have handed me the key just the same. I sat on the edge of the bed in that dim, unfamiliar room and finally let it out. Not a scream. Not sobbing. Just that low, guttural sound you make when the person who promised you forever slices your world in half with a few sentences on a second phone. That kind of pain isn't loud, it's hollow. It echoes. I didn't call her. Didn't give her the satisfaction of hearing my voice. But I saw the missed calls start rolling in late that night. First one. Then 2. By morning, there were over 20. All from her real phone. All unanswered. I'd left the second one in the hallway where she wouldn't miss it. Sitting right next to the note I'd written. That one sentence. I know everything scrawled in my handwriting, waiting for her like a ticking clock. By noon, she switched to texts. Please. Can we talk? I don't know what you saw, but it's not what it looks like. It was a mistake. Please. Just talk to me. Please. I turned the phone off. The next day, I made arrangements. Called the bank. Froze our joint accounts. Every cent that was mine? I pulled it. Clean. Transferred everything into a new account under my name alone. The car she was driving? Still registered to me. I had it remotely disabled through the dealer's app, then had it towed to a storage lot under my name. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I gave those things out of love, and now love was dead. And I wasn't going to let her keep the crown while burying the king. By the 3rd day, she started calling from unknown numbers. I didn't answer. A few voicemails came through before I blocked those 2. Each one sounding more frantic than the last. One even sounded like she was crying. I didn't care. Let her cry. Let her sit in the kitchen where I used to cook her breakfast and wonder how it all vanished in a single day. Let her touch the note I wrote with shaking hands and realize she wasn't just caught, she was done. I made a list. Called the moving company. Scheduled a storage unit. Reached out to a lawyer I knew through a friend. Told him what happened, and he didn't ask many questions. Just nodded, gave me a number, and started drafting the paperwork. I'm filing for divorce. No negotiation. No mediation. Just clean, sharp, and final. I haven't told anyone yet. Not my family, not our mutual friends. Not because I'm protecting her, but because I'm reclaiming my silence. She filled our life with lies. I'll let her sit in the aftermath of her choices alone, wondering who knows what, and when the hammer will drop. And it will. I'm starting over. Not in a symbolic way, in a literal one. New bank. New car. New address. I'm already halfway across the state, staying in a short-term rental, and I've never felt lighter. The past is still in my bones, sure. But for the first time, I'm not dragging it behind me. She had her chance to love me. She chose someone else. And I chose myself. There's something no one tells you about starting over. It doesn't happen in a clean line. It doesn't feel triumphant, not at first. It feels strange. Hollow. Like walking into a room you once knew by heart, only now all the furniture is gone. You're still standing, but everything's different. The first few weeks in the new city were quiet. I rented a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, just far enough from everything familiar that I wouldn't be looking over my shoulder. The walls were bare, the rooms echoey, and for the first time in years, I had no one to answer to. No dinner plans. No shared calendar. No goodnight texts. Just me and the quiet. I kept busy. Gym in the mornings, job interviews in the afternoons. I picked up a contract role that paid well enough and didn't demand much. It gave me space to breathe, and honestly, that's all I really needed. For the first time in months, I was sleeping through the night. No guessing. No second guessing. No weight in my chest. The phone stayed quiet too. Eventually, even the unknown numbers stopped. I heard through a mutual friend, well, an old friend now, that Anna had been asking around, trying to figure out where I'd gone. Apparently, she was beside herself, whatever that means. I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to hurt her, but because she had already said everything I ever needed to hear in those messages to him. What's left after last night was even better than the first time. She wasn't my wife anymore. Not really. She was just someone I used to love. And then, slowly, without fanfare, life started showing up again. It began with a coffee shop. I'd been going there on and off, small place with uneven tables and terrible parking. One morning, I sat near the window with my laptop, trying to bang out a few emails, when I noticed the barista humming along to the music. Not quietly, either full volume, totally off-key, like she didn't care who heard. She had this energy, this looseness, like someone who hadn't learned how to pretend yet. She caught me looking and smirked. "If you're going to judge my singing, you better tip extra." I laughed. Actually laughed. The kind that surprised me because I hadn't heard it in weeks. "Deal," I said. Her name was Leah. We talked a little more every time I stopped in. It started simple coffee orders, bad jokes, complaints about the weather. She asked what brought me to town, and I gave her the short version. Needed a fresh start. She nodded like she understood. Didn't press. She was easy to talk to. No games. No hesitations. The first time we had dinner, I was nervous, not because I didn't want to be there, but because I wasn't sure if I could be there. If I was ready to let someone see me again, not just the polished surface, but all the cracks underneath. But Leah didn't ask for polished. She asked real questions, told real stories. And when I finally told her the truth, not all of it, but enough, she didn't flinch. Just sat with it, like it didn't scare her. It's still early. I don't know what we're becoming yet, but I know I smile more now. I sleep deeper. I'm not looking over my shoulder. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not haunted by the question of what went wrong. Because it doesn't matter anymore. I lived through it. I made it out. She thought she broke me, but I'm still standing. And I'm moving forward. It's been 6 months since I walked out of that house. I still remember the color of the light that morning, the way it spilled across the kitchen floor, warm and quiet, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. That morning, I left the man I used to be behind, the man who trusted without question, who loved without hesitation, who built a life on a foundation he didn't realize was cracking. I think about Anna sometimes. Not often, and not with anger, not anymore. What's left now is something quieter, like an old scar, a reminder of where I've been, what I survived. I don't wish her well or unwell. I just don't wish her anything at all. That was the hardest part to understand. That indifference is what healing looks like. I thought I'd always carry the ache, the betrayal, the why wasn't I enough question looping endlessly in my head. But I don't. It faded, the way loud sounds do when you step into a quieter room. I've made peace with the not knowing, with the gaps in the story. Who reached out first? When it really began? How long she planned to keep lying? None of it matters anymore. Because what matters is this. I left. I chose myself. And I didn't go back. I'm not the same man who stood in our wedding photos, smiling like he could see forever. That version of me was sincere, hopeful, full of trust. I miss him sometimes. But I'm proud of the man who came after, quieter, yes, a little more guarded, but also stronger, sharper, and far less willing to live inside someone else's fantasy. Leah and I are still seeing each other. She knows everything now, every messy detail, every crack in the story. And she's still here. We take things slow. There's no talk of the future yet, no grand declarations. Just small kindnesses. Honest conversations. A sense that maybe, just maybe, I'm not completely ruined. I've started journaling. Working out regularly. I took a weekend road trip alone last month. No plans, no reservations. Just me, the road, and silence. And you know what? It was peaceful. No ghost in the passenger seat. No weight on my chest. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I don't want pity. I share it because someone out there might be where I was, sitting in a house that doesn't feel like home anymore, next to someone who's smiling with someone else in their heart. And if that's you, I want you to know, you can leave. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to stop pretending. You're allowed to choose peace over pieces. I did. And I'm finally free.